When Mr. Ballen's on the screen, you know one damn thing. It's about to get wild. Things are going to be serious, sometimes dark and mysterious. But you got to brace yourself. I know many times I've stepped into the realm of Mr. Ballen and I've been just sitting here giggling and bullshitting, and the next thing you know, he's talking about people buried in shallow graves, attacked by this thing or that, just in some kind of crazy scenario that nobody would ever wish on their worst enemy.
Yeah.
Well, today I see a video of his posted that gained some pretty big attention, and it's called "One of These Can End Your Life," and there's a picture of a tiny capsule that looks like it might have a little bit of electronics inside of it or something.
Yeah, that's what.
And I'm just like, it always freaks me out whenever there's something that's like really tiny, or like there's a substance that it doesn't take much of, or there's something really tiny that can just take you out.
Like a drug that...
I don't know.
Well, you said electronic.
It looked like it had electronics in it or something. So maybe it's like some kind of electrical pulse or something. Like, I mean, you never know. But if he's talking about it, it's bound to be some out there insane bullshit. So I'm totally ready to check it out.
Yeah, sure. Let's get to it.
Let's see.
The scary part about today's story is it could happen to anyone. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please gift the like button one of those magic 8 balls that tells the future, but change all of the potential responses to reply hazy, try again. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
Is this an older video?
It is.
On the night of October 25th, 2009, a fit, healthy 30-year-old man named Alex was at home in San Diego watching TV in bed. At some point, he noticed there was a slight pain in his left Achilles tendon. A tendon is the fibrous connective tissue that connects muscle to bone, and the Achilles tendon is the biggest tendon in your whole body, and it's the one you can feel on the back of your ankle. It connects your calf muscle to your heel. Alex had never had tendon pain before, and so he assumed it must just be tightness from the long walk he had taken that night around his neighborhood. And so after massaging it for a little while, eventually he kind of forgot about it and just kept watching TV until he fell asleep for the night. The next morning when Alex woke up, he immediately recognized that the pain in his left Achilles tendon was 10 times worse. It was blindingly painful. And then his right Achilles tendon was also now starting to hurt. And so he reflexively reached under the covers and tried to massage his sore tendons. But as soon as he touched the backs of his legs, he felt shooting pain in that area, so he couldn't touch them anymore. And so instead, he swung his legs off the bed and he sat up on the edge of his bed. And then he slowly rocked forward until he transferred his weight onto his feet and tried to stand up. And as soon as he did, he fell to the ground because of the blinding pain in his tendons. And so he manages to pull himself back up using the bed, and then he hobbles his way out of his bedroom over to the top of the stairs, and then he grabs the railing and he carefully makes his way down the stairs. And as he's walking, it feels like the tendons are so tight, they're going to snap like a rubber band.
911.
And so he gets to the bottom of the stairs and he walks his way around into the kitchen, where he sits down and he kind of evaluates what's going on. And he thinks to himself, man, I must be developing a wicked case of tendinitis. Tendinitis is inflammation or irritation of the tendon. And so Alex grabbed his laptop, which was right in front of him. He opened it up and he began looking for ways to alleviate pain from tendinitis. And so after looking in a couple medical forums, he got up and hobbled his way over to the bathroom. He opened up the medicine cabinet and he grabbed the Icy Hot, which is a topical pain reliever. And then he hobbled his way into the first floor living room, where he laid down on the couch, and then he applied a healthy amount of Icy Hot on the backs of both of his legs right over his tendons. And then he propped his legs up on 2 pillows. And so he laid there and he's thinking, okay, so it's the weekend, I have today off, I'll just lay here until the pain subsides. But by that evening, the pain had not subsided. It had gotten progressively worse.
No.
And so Alex picked up the phone and he called a podiatrist, which is a doctor who specializes in feet and the lower half of your leg. And he made an appointment for the following morning to have a look at his Achilles tendons. And so after he hung up, Alex thought to himself, you know, the best thing I can do is probably just go to bed. I'm bound to feel better in the morning. So Alex hobbles his way back up the stairs, holding onto the railing, and he goes into his bathroom to wash his face. He reaches for the towel, and he notices his thumb is suddenly locked up, and he can't move his thumb.
911.
And then his other thumb, too, locks up. And he's looking at them, and he can't get them to move. And so with his other fingers, he tries to move that thumb and bend that thumb, but he can't do it. The tendon in both of his thumbs had suddenly become unbelievably tight to the point where he couldn't move his thumbs anymore. Up until this point, Alex had convinced himself that whatever was happening with his Achilles tendons was probably minor, that with or without medical intervention, it was bound to just get better. But now he wasn't so sure, because the thumb situation, that really scared him. He had never experienced anything like that, and he couldn't help but think that whatever was happening in his thumbs was probably what was happening in his Achilles, making this a much more complex problem. So Alex forgets about washing his face or even going to bed, and instead leaves the bathroom and grabs the railing and hobbles back downstairs. He makes his way into the kitchen with the stiff thumbs, and he sits down at the table. He opens up his laptop
No!
and begins looking for any information about what is happening to him. A few minutes into his search, he was about to type something into Google when all of a sudden he felt the rest of his fingers start to lock up.
Oh
The
my
tendons
God,
of his
dude.
fingers were tightening up,
One,
just like
one.
his thumbs and just like his Achilles tendons. And so now Alex is going into crisis mode. He doesn't know what's happening to him. He has no idea what to do, but he manages to calm himself down, and he told himself, Alex, tomorrow you got a doctor's appointment.
No!
They know what's wrong with you. They will fix this. Everything's going to be just fine. And so despite his overwhelming urge to panic, he closes his laptop and he hobbles his way over to the stairs. He climbs up to the second floor, goes directly into his bedroom, crawls in bed, and he goes to sleep. The next morning, when he woke up, the tightness and pain in his Achilles tendons and in his hands had not gotten any worse. And that kind of comforted Alex. He's thinking, okay, we're past the worst of this. I just need to figure out what this is and then fix it. And so he crawled out of bed, he hobbled his way over to the stairs, he went down, he grabbed a quick bite to eat, and then he went outside to his car to head out to his doctor's appointment.
How you gonna
When he
drive?
got to his car, he reached for the door handle, and when he pulled on it, he felt an unbelievable surge of pain in the hand that was on the car. And when he looked down, all of the joints in that hand that had been pulling on the car, they had all separated. Like the connective tissue that kept his finger whole was no longer strong enough. So Alex screamed and he retracted his hand in horror, and when he looked at it, the joints had gone back to normal, but the pain in this hand persisted. And so on adrenaline alone, Alex managed to use his other hand and got the car door open. He went inside, and then he could barely grip the steering wheel because one hand is now wrecked, and his other hand is not much better. But he managed to speed to the doctor's office, and then when he got inside, he could barely fill out the paperwork because one hand was wrecked and the other wasn't much better, so he couldn't grip the pen. But after he gave them his paperwork, the doctor finally came out, and they brought him back to an exam room, and that's when Alex explained that originally it was just his Achilles tendons. That's why he had called for this appointment, but after making that appointment, not only had the pain in his Achilles gotten much, much worse, but there was also now pain and tightness in his hands, including one hand that had just fallen apart when he tried to open a door. Alex told the doctor that he had never experienced anything even remotely resembling this in his entire life. He led a very healthy lifestyle and really had no idea what could be causing this. Although he did say 10 days prior, he had finished a round of antibiotics. The drug was called Cipro, but previously he had used this drug.
Oh,
Yes, it's called Cipro.
But as a precaution,
no.
he told the doctor because he knew one of the side effects of this drug was tendon problems. And so as a precaution, Alex had actually brought the paperwork for that drug, Cipro, and he gave it to the doctor.
Oh,
and so the
no.
doctor, after hearing the story, he reads through the fact sheet of this drug, and he tells Alex that he doesn't think it's a side effect of the drug. He thinks Alex is showing all the signs of having an autoimmune disease, like lupus or multiple sclerosis, and that he needs to go to a rheumatologist and get tested for that. And
No,
so
the
Alex
antibiotic is
horrified
attacking
because he can't believe
his shit.
that only a couple of days ago he was totally normal, and now it felt like his whole life was falling apart. And so he left that appointment, he went out to his car, and he called a rheumatologist, and he set up an appointment for a couple of days later to get tested, and then he went home. And over the next couple of days, as he waited for that next appointment, his condition only got worse.
Yeah, I would've
Every
went to the
muscle,
hospital.
joint, and connective tissue in his body was either extremely tight or hurt or both. By the time he made it to the rheumatologist's office, he could barely move on his own. After the doctor had run several tests on Alex,
Oh, I can't find
Alex
anything.
began mentally preparing himself to be told that he had an autoimmune disease. He believed at this point that that was the most logical explanation for what was happening to him. But when the test results came back in, to Alex's shock, he was negative across the board. He did not have an autoimmune disease. And so Alex hobbled out of the office, he got out to his car, he sat down, and he was in pain and at a loss. He had no idea what was happening to his body, and it seemed like none of the experts knew either. And so when Alex got back to his house, he made his way into the kitchen and he sat down to do some more research, but he felt like he was at a loss there too. He didn't even know what to research. He had searched for every possible combination of pain, tightness in your Achilles, pain, tightness in your hands and your fingers, and nothing was lining up with his experience. And so he thought to himself, even though that podiatrist ruled out the antibiotic he had taken a cycle of before he started feeling the way he was feeling, even though he ruled that out, I might as well do some more research on it because it's the one thing I can point to that was newly introduced to my life before I had all these things happen to me. And so he opened up his laptop and he typed in Cipro side effects. And what he discovered horrified him. Cipro is part of a class of antibiotics called fluoroquinolones, and while it is a very effective antibiotic, it comes with extremely severe side effects. And enough people who have taken a fluoroquinolone have suffered from these side effects that there's actually a term given to them. They are said to have been floxed. And as Alex discovered in his research, there are many online communities for these floxed individuals, many of which used to be healthy and fit, but after taking these drugs, they became bedridden or had to transition to a wheelchair. This is due to one of the nastiest side effects of this class of drug: ruptured tendons. As a reminder, a tendon connects muscle to bone. And so if you were to say a tendon has ruptured, what you're actually saying is the muscle has torn off of the bone. And apparently, this is unbelievably painful.
Yes.
And almost always requires surgery to fix. And in many of these floxing cases, the fluoroquinolone drugs cause these people's tendons to start dramatically tightening until they just start rupturing. And there's nothing they can do to stop it unless they stop moving, hence becoming bedridden and transitioning to wheelchairs. When Alex read all these horrible testimonials of people who had been floxed, he realized their experience mimicked his own. He was floxed. But once he knew what he was up against, he began looking for a timeline. How long would he have these symptoms for? And what he saw was most people experience these awful symptoms for about 3 months and then they fade away. So for 3 months, Alex suffered, but he stayed positive. He was certain he was going to get better. But 3 months came and went, and he didn't get better. In fact, he got worse. All of his tendons continued to tighten, and some of them ruptured, and he had to quit his job and had to move in with his parents. But he stayed positive. He went back online, and he began reading about more severe floxing cases, and he saw those people typically saw a big turnaround at the 3-year mark. And while that was overwhelming and awful and disheartening, he at least had something to look at as the light at the end of the tunnel.
The finish
So
line,
for
yeah.
3 more years, he waited and waited in pain. He eventually became completely bedridden and completely dependent on his parents. But then the 3-year mark came and went, and much like the 3-month mark, nothing got better, he just got worse. And that was when Alex realized he was in the range of people that suffered from their floxing permanently. In 2016, so 7 years after taking that fateful dose of Cipro, he wrote a blog post on his website updating the world about his condition. In it, he says he's only gotten worse and that his life effectively came to an end in 2009 when, over a 6-day period, he swallowed those 12 Cipro pills. And so now, all he looks forward to is his death.
Oh no. Our mod is in the chat and oh no.
Oh, he's saying he's on antibiotics.
And he said, I'm currently taking them MF.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about that. With a lot of medication, this is the case. There are like this many people who have absolutely no problem.
They don't just prescribe it for no reason. Yeah.
And then there's like
yeah,
this many, like you have a better chance winning the lottery of experiencing. Right. That doesn't mean it can't happen.
That's fucking terrible.
Okay, that's why every single time, dude, I don't care what it is,
That's
some
very
shit's
paranoid.
going on, and Nikki's like, just go take something for that. And I'm like,
y'all are gonna be like, what the fuck? I take over a dozen pills every fucking day. Every fucking day. So to me, pop that shit. Do I like it? No. Do I want that? No. Do I have reasons to have to take that shit? Much like this guy, had to fucking figure it out for my goddamn self because, the tests were fine. And then you go to the motherfuckers and you say, no, actually, this is the problem. And then they're like, damn, you were right, fuck.
Well, I use the Leon Kennedy method and I stay healthy on green herbs. And that's just where I feel comfortable. I have had, a bunch of different dental issues here over the past 3 or 4 months. And I have had to take 3 different ranges of antibiotics over the because my tooth was infected, the one that had me fucked up for a minute.
Antibiotics are very important. They're terrible for your gut health.
Well, I had to take them a few times, you
could literally die.
And it's always a thing, whenever I'm taking any kind of prescribed medication, even when I was taking opioids for pain, when they had to remove my tooth and do all that shit that they did, I had a panic attack on a small dose of opioids because that shit freaks me out too. I have a problem taking any kind of medication. So
the only time that I remember in my life ever having to take any kind of pain medication, not Tylenol or something like that, but was for my wisdom teeth. And they gave me the strongest thing that you can take. I don't even remember what it's called. Percocets. Percocets?
I love Percocet.
And I instantly threw up and almost ripped my stitches out.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor 4 years ago. I'm pretty sure I have endometriosis. And so my monthly pain is intolerable unless I'm on birth control.
Right.
And at that point, I don't think I was. And I was like, something's wrong. And he's like, I don't know, you want some Percocet? And I was like, no, I don't want Percocet, doc. I want you to fucking give me something to see if I have endometriosis.
Right.
Yeah. But he started talking about connective tissue stuff, and I'm like, oh dear God.
That's part of the shit you deal with.
Part of the stuff that I deal with. I have a thing called POTS, and it affects literally everything in my body. So I have to take medicine to lower my heart rate, and then I have to take medicine to make my muscles work right, and then I have to take medicine because my body thinks it's allergic to itself, mast cell stuff. So I have to take 5 antihistamines every single fucking day. So I was like, oh God, if he starts talking about this shit, I didn't even know my shit could snap. Yeah. I'm just too bendy. So my muscles and my ligaments tighten up and wait, which one is it? Yeah, and then my joints are all the fucking pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 100% cases where I've seen people be mentally addicted to weed, because they were talking about that in the chat. But I mean, even somebody like me who's been, I'm reliant on that for all of my mental health situation for years and years, I will go days where I don't use it at all until, sometimes at all. There were a few weeks, maybe even a month or two, not too long ago, where I just refused. I would rather off of it for a while.
Be addicted to that than almost anything
else.
It
doesn't have any physical addiction, because whenever I decided to just completely drop off and not use it for a while so I could get my head more clear, because I was dealing with my own shit with my OCD and things like that, I needed to be able to focus on what I needed to focus on to keep my mind from going off and doing its own thing. So I was able to not experience chills and shakes and if I was on
withdrawal symptoms.
Well, just think, dude, Xanax and shit like that, they pretty much say you can't not, once you start taking that stuff for long periods of time, you have got to keep taking it or it is dangerous for you to not. And I'm
well, I know
like,
there's a lot of stuff like you can't quit cold turkey.
yeah, no, there's a lot of shit that like no matter what you do, you can't not take that anymore because it is dangerous for your chemistry in your body
My
to not
past
take
doctor.
it anymore.
You want to start this stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a bunch of money.
And so for me, I always wonder like because you know there was a point in time where my doctors had me on like a wide range of drugs, and I was like,
Because why?
because of my mental health issues,
Yeah.
you know, like they were trying to treat that, but like I could tell
I
that
just
it
didn't
wasn't
want
for
people
me.
to think that you were just like on drugs.
Oh no
Yeah.
no! This was for my mental health issues. This was like over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and I knew that wasn't working for me. No matter what they had on paper and what their studies concluded that needed to be done for people dealing with the things I was dealing with, I was fucked up, and so I just stopped. Which it was incredibly dangerous what I did, but literally hours after not taking the drugs that I was taking, I felt better.
Well, I think they had you on far too much.
They had me on far too much, and so I supplemented that when I got out of the military with medical marijuana, and it has increased my quality, well, not just my quality of life, but my faith in myself, you know, being able to handle my issues, and it has increased my ability to function as a, you know, contributing member of society outside of just being a nervous wreck or depending on tons of not narcotics but pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Instead, I have one organic plant that I use in rations. You know, I don't it's not like I know people who sit around and smoke blunts all day.
Yeah.
I can't do that, man.
Yeah.
I can't. I do too much. And I think also another thing that helps my mental health situation is not having an idle mind and being productive, creating,
Yeah.
being involved in things, you know, because I focus on myself too much if I don't.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem.
Same. Yeah.
You know, so the pharmaceutical shit, like antibiotics and shit, there's times if you have a massive infection, especially above the neck, if you've got your jaw swole up, if you've got, you know, an infection in your eye and your ear, if a lesion on your head has been infected and stuff, I mean, there's times you just have to take antibiotics or you face infection in places that are deadly and you can take you out quick. There was a story I read about a young man in New York City, actually, who had an infected tooth. And because our healthcare system in the United States treats dental health as if it's some secondary non-essential thing, it is hard for a lot of people to get dental care, specifically in America.
Yeah.
You can have a doctor that can treat cancer, MS, like all these fucking diseases that could be all over your body, but as soon as it's here, they can't touch it. They can't help you at all.
Yeah.
I had a friend, one of my best friends, literally had an infection where he got hospitalized. It was in his mouth. It was his tooth.
Yeah.
But this kid died. He was like 13 or
Not your
14.
friend.
Not my friend. But the initial person I was talking about died because they had an infected tooth, and it was a kid. It was like a 14-year-old kid. And the infection got to his bloodstream and killed him.
Yeah.
My friend's face was swell up like this,
You know two
dude.
people who-
I know two people who have
Yeah.
had their face swell up like this because of dental issues. And it's just such a dangerous game. Antibiotics have to be used in those situations.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous to not treat infection up above the neck. So, I mean, while this story is horrific and it is terrifying, so is dying of an infection in your face.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what his particular issue that he had to be prescribed antibiotics for, but they do overprescribe it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, shit's crazy, man. Mr. Ballen's the one. I mean, he'll make you afraid of Skittles somehow. You know, like he's got stories about everything. And some of the shit that I've done, dude, in my life, especially younger, like playing in creeks, handling frogs and salamanders and crawdads and all that, and then going and grabbing some peanuts out of a dish and eating them right after touching all that stuff.
And you're fine.
Well,
you probably helped yourself out. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's some crazy shit always with Mr. Ballen. So I appreciate that. But
yeah,
we got to move on to the next. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. If you did, you can give us a like, subscribe to the channel. You could even recommend videos for us to react to. Maybe some pleasant ones.
Yeah. Down in the comments, you can do that on our Discord, our Patreon, or our Twitch. We go live on our Twitch every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do live reactions just like this one.
We do. Appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Guys.